everyone, and a very warm welcome to Business Finance Week. We have got a number of attendees still logging in, so we're just going to give everybody a few more seconds, and then we will get started. While we're waiting for everyone to join, just to remind you that within the resources section, which you can see on your screen, we have our Making Business Finance Work for You guide. So please do feel free to download the guide. And also, if you'd like to find out more information, please do visit our British Business Bank Finance Hub. Okay, I think we should be ready to start. I know we had over 90 people. So I will do an official welcome to this, the final event of Business Finance Week 2023 as hosted by the British Business Bank. So a very warm welcome. My name is Angeline Woodland and I am the Chief Customer Officer here at the British Business Bank. So the theme today is very fitting one. So finance as a journey, what comes next? So this Business Finance Week has been 5 days of an exceptional number of events that have been hosted right across the 12 nations and regions of the UK. In fact, we've had 27 events in total. 16 of those have been in person, and we've all attended a number of those, and 11 of these have been webinars, and all of the webinars will be available on the website afterwards if anybody would like to download those if you've missed them. So we started the week, just to do a brief run through, we started the week on Monday talking about how to take that first step in terms of starting your business. The second day was around using finance and understanding how finance can grow your business. Wednesday, we focused on working capital. And yesterday, I was in Liverpool and a number of my colleagues were in Newcastle, all around the country. We were focusing around unlocking innovation and how we can support businesses to either innovate in terms of new to business or around new to market. And really, all of those themes are then culminating in what's next. So how can you use finance to really stem and grow your business growth journey? And for us here at the British Business Bank, the entire reason why we set up Business Finance Week is because our role and our mission is to support the 5.5 million SMEs that we've got across the UK and to support those businesses to really help them access the right funding at the right time to enable them to prosper and grow. And we really hope that these 5 days of events and seminars have been able to give you, businesses, more insight as to what's the next best step for you and your business. So back to the seminar, we're going to be joined today by 3 businesses who have done exactly that, who have used finance, different types of finance, at different stages of their business growth to get them to that next stage of maturity. So if I could ask my panelists to join me, please. I'm going to be starting with welcoming David Honey to the... Hello, David. Hi, how are you? And David is from ElpKit. So David, do you want to tell us a little bit about you and a little bit about your organisation, please?
Hi, Angeline. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm Chief Executive of ElpKit, and we're a direct-to-consumer outdoor and bike brand. So we design, develop outdoor products, bikes, particularly for the UK outdoor enthusiast, and we sell direct. We're online, primarily online, and we've got 10 stores throughout the UK, from Inverness in the north down to Bristol and Kingston upon Thames in the south. And that's me.
Excellent. And I love your catchphrase on your website, which is, this winter, are you going to hibernate or hibernate? And I thought, aha, that's guilted me into getting my bike out. Lovely to hear from you. Thank you, David. So if we can go to you next, please, Joanne. And Joanna Doherty, welcome. And Joanne's joining us from Kinzetsu today. So could you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your business, please, Joanne?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. I'm Joanna Doherty. I'm co-founder and CEO at Kinzetsu. Kinzetsu is a software company in the IoT space. We're based in Belfast with an office in Galway and one in Ottawa. And we provide an enterprise platform to our customers in critical sectors such as healthcare, defence, media, local government, and the commercial and manufacturing sectors to be able to connect to their critical assets, their inventory, the locations and services in flow. We formed Consetsi in 2016, 2 female founders, and it was all about making a difference to our customers. So delighted to be here today.
Oh, thank you. And that's the right mission to have in life, isn't it? To do everything you can for your customers. So that's a great start. Thank you. And then finally, can I come to you, please, Nadeem? So Nadeem Sarwar joins us from Flow. Could you tell us a little bit about you and your business, please, Nadeem?
Thank you, Angeline. I'm Nadeem Sarwar. I'm the founder and chief executive officer of Flow. Flow is one of the UK's largest digital pharmacy businesses. We manage, dispense, and deliver your prescription. And in London, Birmingham, and Manchester, we can do that within 120 minutes. So we've created the delivery of pharmacy, growing exceptionally quickly. We're about 100 employees now. We have a second business where we provide digital pharmacy services for other health tech businesses. So it's been a bit of a journey. We were founded before the pandemic, but we launched just as the pandemic happened. So it's been an interesting journey in terms of everything that's gone along that and growing a business during that period.
Okay, fantastic. And yeah, when I was doing some research on the company today, I am Manchester based, so I am your target market. So that'd be good. Right. So the one of the benefits of Business Finance Week is, as I've gone around the country speaking to businesses, one founder said to me, Angeline, it can feel very lonely being a founder, and therefore being able to hear from other businesses and examples of other businesses who have been along this journey, found the funding and actually have come out the other end. Although somebody did then say to me, you never come out the other end being a founder. This is your day in, day out life. So we really, really value your insight today, and for everybody listening, it's really helpful to hear your own journey and experience. So if I start with you again, David, if that's okay, could you just talk us through, I suppose, starting with what was your original idea and plan, and how did you take that from being maybe something you discussed at the coffee table as a really good idea into a commercial reality and Elp Kit that we see today?
The original idea was really that because we came from outdoor brands, that you could develop a product, and this is way back almost 20 years ago. Next year's
Right.
actually my birthday, that you could then sell on what was new fangled web idea, and effectively you could sell products, very, very good quality premium products at a very accessible price point. And almost day one, the business plan changed when we started selling products, and customers phoned back and said, "Oh, thanks for sending us that. Yeah, we got it, and we got it on time." And we just recognised the importance of customer service and engaging them very, very quickly. So the idea was still true to the original values of being a good business as we grow and celebrating the outdoors, being with our customers. And now we serve customers, as I said, across the whole country in things like running, hiking, climbing, swimming, riding bikes.
Yeah.
And having stores that we opened in 2017 was a very big moment for us when we moved from being an entirely digital brand to having bricks and mortar stores as well.
Excellent.
So it's been quite a journey with quite a few touch points of finance and fundraising.
Yes. And can you tell us a little bit more about those? Because obviously what we're trying to understand today is that maybe as along that journey, you've used different types of finance based on the business stage you're at. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
So definitely, and we started with primary banking relationships with, the high street banks like Barclays, HSBC, typical, the high street banks, and British Business Bank through Midlands Angel Investment Fund have been really, really helpful for us. There's a couple of service providers. We're in the kind of Derby, Nottinghamshire, Leicestershire, East Midlands area, and the Midlands Investment Fund have really been able to help us with a range of loans, smaller loans. They tend to sit behind after banking when primary banks, it's probably a bit too much. So they've helped us open stores. They've helped us with recruiting additional staff. They've helped us with product and with bringing working capital facilities. And through the British business bank as well, a stock finance facility as well that HSBC helps us administrate. So it has been something that's been really special for us, and has helped us. We've also used crowdfunding as a way really for equity side. So how we've been able to keep the business well funded is through a mix of having primary bank funding, support through Midlands Engine Investment Fund, and also our customers have helped us grow a lot by becoming shareholders in Alpkit as well.
Excellent. And if I can just probe a little bit on the point you're making, we'll use the Midlands Engine example, is that, as you say, your primary banking relationship, so for those on the call, who you bank with will always tend to be your first port of call. But as a business owner, a number of the businesses I've spoken to have said that they can find it quite confusing around understanding what's available out there. So the Midlands Engine is obviously a geographic-based regional fund, which is administered by the British Business Bank. We've also got NPIF, which is Northern Powerhouse, and Cornwall Isles of Scilly, and we're launching some new ones. But how did you find out about that fund, and did you find it an easy route trying to navigate the finance? You're smiling, so I'm sure
it was. So we actually had a very, very good bank manager who suggested we get in contact with the fund through some people in Nottingham, First Enterprise at that point, and just that conversation helped open up the dialogue. And there's a business advisor that came out from First Enterprise in Nottingham, and just the process of applying and putting pen to paper and mapping out your business plan, I found was a really positive experience. They helped us with the process, and then we had a panel that we had to go and visit and present to, and there was questions, and the panel was made up of specialists, but also kind of independent advisors and people with good experience, and that process itself was pretty good as well. And that has developed into a bit more formal, structured applications. So the initial kind of contact came through our primary bank at the time. And I'm really grateful for that, because had we not, it's something that I doubt we would have stumbled across. So actually being introduced, that referral was very, very good.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you, David. That's been a really helpful start. Thank you. So if I come to you next, please, Joanne.
Yes,
thank you.
Thanks,
and obviously very, very different business. But could you tell us a little bit about what your journey has looked like, and where you have used finance, and maybe some of the reasoning behind you chose that particular type of finance at that particular point in your business?
Yes, absolutely. So my background, degree in computers, worked for large global organizations, Dell, Hewlett Packard, before forming Consetsu. And we really saw a niche in the market. And we had been initially selling other people's platform, but the way that data was being visualized to make a difference to frontline teams in healthcare and ED, which is where we started really, in healthcare, was not appropriate. So we saw that niche, and we decided to build our own platform, right? So we had no real money apart from bootstrapping. So actually we went and we won innovation grants with Innovate UK. We won advanced, strategic investment board grants as well. And actually we were very successful, and we were always quite surprised at the success that we had. Continued to win innovation grants and then pilots with customers. And our primary market was healthcare. Then COVID hit, right? And actually our, everything was changing. And I think for us, by that stage, we'd grown to quite, I suppose, about 11 in the team. So we initially took the Stables loan. So that's what we did way back then. And then we decided to go on the investment journey. And because our platform is relatively new, highly visual, and using different types of technologies in the IoT space, we really needed to keep our core developers. We need to keep our staff and everyone together. So we went out into the market, and we got a couple of different offers. So we had VC, private equity. We had a JV offer at a point in time as well. And we decided we were going to go down the JV route. And then as we went through that journey, and that's to anyone listening on the call, just be so aware of your worth whenever you're going in that investment journey, I think. But then we kind of backed away from that, and we went back to who we're now with. So we went back to them a year later, and we're with Power Equity. They're based up in Scotland. And obviously, I know British Business Bank is a great partner of theirs and part of that fund. So we went back into the team and we took our first round of investment then in 2022, and we've taken a top up in 2023. We also had a little bit of support from, I would say, private angel investors along the way, people who knew us in the technology market in Ireland and who just really wanted to be part of our journey. And so I think for us, I wish we'd taken investment a little bit earlier. That's what I would say to anyone. I think it takes a lot longer than you actually think from whenever you're getting that, first term sheet to getting the funds in through the door. And I think that definitely for that, that's the advice I would give on that journey. It's been a great journey. We have had continued success. We've got more structure now with the board, obviously, as you're going from being a startup to a scale up, and now really a scaling company that's looking at export. And I think for now, it's really about, stabilizing the business. We're in that J curve, coming up and scaling on the other side, and hoping to make a success of what we have. And funding's been a big part of that.
Excellent, thank you. And Joanne, I just thought for the benefit of people on the call, JV, you're talking about joint venture, aren't you? In terms
of joint venture, yes. So a commercial organisation that wants to buy half,
Yeah, exactly. And could you tell us a little bit more just around regional angels? Because actually over this past week, that has the angel network or angel syndicates have come up quite a lot as a really good inroad for businesses who are very much at that seed, so very much that early stage of development, and who are also potentially looking for some networking or mentoring opportunity. Just can you tell me a little bit about your angel experience as well?
Yeah, I think it's really important. And I think for us, whenever we had multiple offers before with 4 offers, we only went back to Power. And that was because of that network that they had. So they had people that had been founders before. I think that's really important. People that have been on that journey could provide that advice, bringing you in and bringing people together in a network, so people bringing people together a number of times a year, so that you could share experience. And I think that I would say probably everybody on the call, we're continually learning, right? So I think that if you can learn from people that have been on that journey, I think that's important in relation to advice. Funding is something, 100%. And I think the value that they then show and the interest that they show in your business and being able to connect you maybe into other organizations that you're not already connected into, or even if it's just advice about export. We've recently been looking at the Americas, North Canada, and being able to talk to, previous founders who've been on that journey, who've had successful exits, has been really an important part of our, our knowledge, and we're continually wanting to learn and to share our knowledge with others who are coming up as well.
Yeah, and somebody expressed it as it's more than the money, in terms of the support that you get, exactly as you say, around that access to networks, and also the examples of if organisations within their portfolio come across other companies who've had a similar problem statement to you, they can link you through. And a few businesses have said that's really helped them get to the next stage of growth for their own business.
Yeah, no, it's been absolutely fantastic. And I think, I have to call out as well, the fund with Power has been great in relation to the diversity there. Our chair is female, our senior management team actually are as well. And I think, I'm not sure of the stats now, but at one point in time, I think it was only 2% of female founders, that were getting, getting funds really drawn through. I think it's up to about 9% now, which is great. But, I think having that right investor that is going to support that journey and understands that importance of diversity and different voices within your team, and also that they can bring to the table as well through the board is important.
Good, thank you very much, Joanne. Thank you. Right, Nadeem, if I can come to you next, please. That's okay.
Thanks for that.
Hello. Hi. So do you want to tell us a little bit? So, the first thing I noted with Nadeem was that you say you launched just as the pandemic hit. That must have been, it's challenging starting a business at any time. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey and how finance has helped you?
So look, I'm an ex-banker, so don't hold it against me. So I think my funding journey has probably been a bit smoother because I kind of understood finance. But I went to business school in the United States, and I'm a diabetic, and I was quite fascinated with some of the digital health businesses that were kind of emerging in the US. So I came back to the UK in 2016, and I was like, right, I'm going to do something in this area because I think it's something where we can do something good for patients. Wasn't very good at it, to be honest, Angela. It took us a little bit of time to actually get to a point of launch. We finally got launched in 2020, and this business has raised significant capital. I mean, as of today, it's raised about £13 million of equity and about £2 million of debt. And there's another large round of funding which is about to close, which eclipses that in its entirety. So it's been a journey, but I mean, our fundamental issue with this business was it was a technology business, and fundamentally we had to build the technology and the product before we could actually launch. I mean, in many businesses you can get trading really, really quite quickly, and it's easier to kind of generate cash flow from the get-go. But we've had to do it that way, and hence the amount of capital that this business has raised across its journey.
And can I just ask you, Nadine, I mean, very impressive figures around your equity rounds. Just for the benefit of people on the call, can you just talk us through what that, because obviously debt, I think, is quite easy to understand. Equity, it's a different journey. So what did that entail? And I suppose the question people always ask with equity is, how much do you give away as a part of that deal? Can you just talk us a little bit through that, please?
Well, look, you're absolutely right. And raising equity is very, very different from raising debt. Well, our initial, we did what any young business did. We went to a couple of angels, successful business owners who put a little bit of money in using the kind of EIS schemes, which were kind of beneficial to investors to do that. I borrowed from friends and family initially as well to try and get us to a point. But, I think the fundamental point is you kind of need to show kind of traction to get investment. And that traction is either product traction. So either you're building a product and you're getting somewhere with that, or it's financial traction in some kind of way, or some other kind of metric you can measure. So, I mean, we've raised £13 million, but it's not come in one go. It's come in, a series of stages. So, I mean, we raised a little bit of money. We finally got a product to launch. Was it the most amazing product in the world? No, it wasn't, but we got something to market, which was great. And then, you kind of use your networks and connections to kind of find the right investor. We probably weren't right for venture capital at that point, but we were very lucky that we were introduced via one of our existing investors to a family office. So family office is effectively an investment vehicle for a very, very wealthy individual. And we managed to get introduced to a US family office who took a liking to us and who backed us with quite significant capital to kind of get us to that next inflection point in our journey. I mean, we've also have used things like the Future Fund during the pandemic. We use funding via that vehicle. And we also have used crowdfunding, which is, so I think we did the second largest crowd fund for health tech in Europe in 2021. So it's been a multitude of different things to get us going. So I think the main thing when you're raising equity, it's about reality. You raise equity appropriate to your life cycle of your business. Then you prove what you're going to do with that, and you raise further funding to get you to that next stage. So, but it is difficult. I think the thing about raising equity, a lot of it's about your networks. We've been very lucky. I had some really good introductions. I didn't really have a network of my own, but I had some really good introductions where I got introduced to some really good people, and which then helped with that. So, I suppose if you don't have a network, you have to go and build that network, and that's about getting people to help you with that as well.
Yeah, and how do you do that, Nadine? This is something that came up at one of the sessions we were talking at yesterday. I know you said earlier, you're a banker, so you understand finance. But is it around putting yourself out there? Is it joining networks? Is it about doing stakeholder maps to think about, oh, these are the people I need to pick off in my area? How do we practically go around building networks?
Sure. Well, look, here's an interesting example, right? I mean, our chairman is a nice gentleman who we're a Scottish headquartered company, and we were involved with Entrepreneurial Scotland, who were helping with things like entrepreneurial education. So the CEO of Entrepreneurial Scotland was like, right, I know somebody in London who might be interested in investing. He does some angel investments. went and talked to him, and actually his initial thoughts were actually really nice guys, but you're probably not ready for an investment.
Yeah.
Why don't you go and think about this, this, and this? So we went back to him a year later, and we said, look, we did everything you said. By the way, we're not looking for an investment. We're just saying this is the progress. So he was retiring from his job, and he agreed to become the chairman of our company. And actually, he's been a great supporter, and he had a great network. We just tapped into that. So in that example, we tapped into a network from somebody we were working with on a kind of educational basis, and then that brought in a chairman to the business. He was a heavy hitter, and we've tapped into his network, and we've done that multiple times. So I suppose you need to get people to believe in you and what your vision is and where you want to get to. But and that does require persuasion and the ability to sell yourself and your business and where you want to get to.
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you, Nadeem. And as I say, very reflective of conversations I've been having with businesses, which is around researching what you have in your local geography, reaching out, and also saying that a number of founders who you might reach out to, who look for people who've done similar things in a similar field. And one of the businesses was saying to me on Wednesday, actually a lot of people want to give back. So when you reach out, it's very rare that you get a no, or that somebody isn't prepared to give you that helping hand along your business journey. Thank you. So the next question I thought we'd talk about is, what are some of the key lessons that you've learned along the stage of scaling your business? And if I could come back to you, please, David. And obviously you're saying that you're coming up to your 20-year anniversary, so congratulations. So looking back on those 20 years, what are some of the lessons that you think you've learned that you could share with us today?
I think it was mentioned it earlier about it's never too early to raise finance, and we've got this idea of growing in financial safety, which for me is effectively to write down a plan that you think that works, and really that's the reality of what funding you think you need, and then trying to secure that funding. And once the funding is in place, you're then free to go to try and realize your potential and realize your ambitions. So it's really centered about building a plan that you think that works, that is got a right amount of reality and ambition in that, and then trying to secure the funding to make it happen.
Okay. And when you say build the plan, is there an element of how you've had to change that plan over the past 20 years? I'm sure the plan you had then is different. So is one of the lessons around being able to adapt that plan?
Yeah, I mean, the idea is does form and evolve over a period of time. And just in the past 4 or 5 years, I mean, plans have been written and rewritten so many times.
Yeah.
And when you mentioned about it being forever aspect of being a founder, you're always on this journey of trying to assess where you are and where you may take the business. And we have built a bit of a rule book about things like being, trying to always make sure you're in touch with your customers and you understand how customers are, about trying to make sure you're not over trading stock or with the team that you've got still feel kind of very are in touch and motivated, and the team don't feel run ragged as you're dealing with issues like the past few years have thrown at us, particularly from a retail estate where you've got stores that you closed in lockdown, and then web picked up, and then stores closed again, and we've faced supply chain difficulties in things like bike and getting product into the UK. It's been a complex set of situations we've faced over the past few years.
And I mean that those challenges, I think, obviously the pandemic, and obviously what we're seeing now in terms of just energy prices, increasing in interest rates, and that really came out in our working capital session on Wednesday, actually, David. I'm sure you agree, where businesses were saying that I think it's 63% of businesses who've taken out loans have used it for pure just working capital to keep going, because actually trying to stay ahead of the cost curve is where businesses are really finding that challenge now.
So we try and understand where the potential is, and also understand risks, so that you can then try and address those risks and mitigate it, rather than go kind of full strength into a situation you're not clear of what the downside is.
Great, thank you. Thanks, David. And if I could come to you next, please, Joanne, in terms of key lessons you believe that you've learned along this work route.
Yes. Well, get ready for the roller coaster ride because
Yes,
it is
yes,
one,
that was
right?
your description, wasn't it? That should
Yeah,
tell us
yeah,
enough.
yeah. The up and the down, and the grit, the tenacity, and all of those things that go
Yeah.
along with it. And I think for us, what we've learned is just about people, the right people. We've talked about that in relation to the networks. I think the people in your team. I just think, surrounding yourself with the best that you can, that you can afford, and also rewarding them, in relation to stocks and shares and things like that. But I think I would say we have a really strong CFO, and just as David was talking about a plan, your cash runway, things don't always happen in the timeline that you think they're going to happen, and I think that's something that is, I think as all founders and growing businesses, we're very much aware of, and I think that we're going to continue to go through challenges as we've seen it on the news today around the economy, so trying to mitigate all of that, and yeah, I mean, I just think for us, it's been mentioned about customers. Everything that we do is around human-centered design, and I think even though founders can get really busy in that investment journey, me getting in front of my customers is the best thing that I can be doing, that founder selling as well, and getting that balance around the internal navigation of keeping the business growing and also being in front of your customer. I think that, there's something that I always try and keep a check on the roller coaster ride. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I was speaking to the founder of Maxwellia yesterday at our innovation event, and she had very similar feedback, which was actually the challenge can be around keeping your focus on the business itself as opposed to the back end of the business, which is the finance, the operations and everything. And how did you find that worked? Obviously, as your business model matures and you can bring on board a CFO, for instance, you've sort of got somebody who can start looking after those finance elements. How did that work for you when you didn't have that structure in place and when it was more reliant on you as a founder to try and find and source funding? How did you manage that?
I think it was really difficult because, my co-founder Jackie Crooks and I used to spend Saturday mornings before taking the kids to rugby doing spreadsheets, which was not our forte. You know what I mean? So, and I think back to Nadim's point as well, it's about those networks, those kind of like, the private investors initially maybe as well, people knowing your story. But it was hard work. And I think that's another thing I would say is, someone that whenever you're going into investment, having Angela Reevy, our CFO, who was able to build those strong projections, model those, not just for a 1 year, for a 3 year, for a 5 year plan, including what you're doing if you're going to go and export as well. As soon as you can get someone like that in your business, hold on to them. I think for us, we started off in relation to consultancy, and then we went part-time, with our CFO, just because, the value was just so important to us, and she's a big part of, our success today. So,
So build your networks, keep your people, and very strong year projections around your financial planning.
Yeah.
Good ones to bear in mind. Thank you, Joanne. Thank you. Nadim, can I come to you next, please?
Sure.
So, what would you say some of, as you say, the business that you've built? What are some of the key lessons you've learned along the way, particularly in relation to funding?
It's particularly when it comes to equity investments, pick the right investors.
Yeah. Right.
Pick the right investors, because this is a long journey, and actually, it's a bit like getting married. Unfortunately, when you bring an investor into your business, it's very difficult to get divorced. So it's about picking the right partner in the first place.
Yeah.
So that's really important. And there's been times where I've been overly optimistic and I should have raised a bit more money than we actually did. And we've raised a lot of money already. And also, Joanne's made the point about time. It does take a lot of time to go and raise financing, especially over the last 2 years, because of macroeconomic conditions. And also it's a massive distraction. It's a huge distraction from the day-to-day running of the business. So, I mean, our kind of viewpoint is we have another financing round happening at the moment, but that kind of funds the business for quite a significant period of time and kind of gets us out of a trough of negative cash flow into positive cash flow, which is always part of the plan. So in terms of the financing side, that's the main lessons. The other kind of lesson is we've scaled a company that was about 12 people in 2020 to about 100 people in 2023. It'll probably be
Wow.
150 to 200 people in the next year. It's a
Mm.
fast-growing company. As founder and CEO, I've never done this job. Had to learn on the job, but I've had some good people around me. But I dare say the business is very different when you're managing 10 to 20 people. That's incredibly different from when you're managing 100 people. Because when you're,
Yeah.
so I mean, I've had to change myself pretty significantly, and I'm still trying to do that now. About how to do that. So I think scaling a business quickly is, I think, probably harder than starting up. The startup bit as well. I think the scale up bit is actually probably more problematic. The startup bit was kind of, okay, we need to raise a bit of money, we need to get a product to market, and hopefully
Yeah.
we can get some sales in the door. And actually it kind of gravitates from there, and you kind of start moving on from there. But when you're scaling up and you're coming to grow the team and you're going all these kind of areas quite quickly, that's where the challenge is, in my opinion. And there's lots of things I would have done very differently in terms of people and in terms of everything else that comes alongside that. So finance is an input. It's the outputs is building the business, and everything that comes alongside that. So, but you're absolutely right. A business that needs to get there needs the fuel, and the finance gives you the fuel to do that. There's creative ways to do that. It's not just about equity finance. You can do different ways to go and fund it, but fundamentally at the startup stage, you will need to take some personal risk. And I think if you want to be an entrepreneur, build a business, there's an element of personal risk that you'll have to accept to go and get something off the ground.
No, absolutely. And just reflecting on your conversation there around how it's changed for you as a founder. This came out at the conversation with Evoke Creative yesterday, actually. So when you're moving from 12 to 100 people, Nadeem, how have you found that in terms of keeping the vision of the business true to itself, and for you as a CEO, where you've been the founder and the core person at the center of what you've been doing, how have you managed to enable the rest of the teams across the organization so that you can let go a little bit? Because some founders were saying to us, that's quite a difficult part of scaling up.
Yeah, it is. And I think the main point is the key to good leadership, in my opinion, is not to know what you're good at, is to know what you're bad at. Right? You figure out what you're bad at, and then you hire people to go and compensate for your deficiencies. So I've been very lucky that I've got a bunch of good people in my senior executive team who make up for my very, very wide-ranging set of deficiencies. I know what I'm good at as well. I'll stick to what I'm good at, but that's the whole point. I think in terms of then empowering that team, that's about hiring the right people. If you hire a bunch of people you trust, and they are being there and they understand how you operate and what your vision is for the business, their job is to take that forward. And as you get past that kind of 100 people stage, your role is more about strategy and not doing the day-to-day stuff. I actually struggled with that because I was so used to getting involved in every area on a day-to-day basis. But actually, you're not 20 people anymore. You have to let people get on with their day job. And so your job is to set the strategy and direction and just check in and make sure that, it's not coming off course. But, am I an expert at that? Absolutely not. But, I'm learning as I go along.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the phrases that came out yesterday was accepting you're not a specialist in everything as a founder. And I think that's what you were saying. And we were talking in particular yesterday around one of the founders who was talking about the challenges around procurement and trying to get contracts over the line, etc. was one his example where he was very happy to hand over to the expert. Thank you, Nadeem. All right, we've got one more round of questions, and for those of you online, please do submit your questions. I can see them coming in, but we really want to make sure that we can get to as many of them as possible. So if I could go to you next again, David, if that's all right. So we've spoken about the business journey. Can you talk us a little bit about what's in your future? And well, we don't have crystal balls, but what's in the future for ElpKit? And if there's any intent around future funding or what your aspirations are next?
Oh, we're looking from now. We've proven to a certain extent that what was a dream that a performance direct-to-consumer outdoor and bike brand can exist in the UK. To help make that dream a reality and us realize our potential, which is things like opening stores, maybe 2-3 stores a year. We've got a bit of international business already, and I'd love to prove that territories such as like Germany and the US works really strongly for us. We're forever developing new product and got new product ideas and improving, developing new products. And as we grow and build the team, build our board, build our senior leadership team, and get more representative across the country. I'm looking to really help our people grow and develop and help realize their own individual career aspirations as well.
Excellent. And when you're talking about potentially moving to thinking about expanding internationally, as a business, because that's also come up a lot, which is we've done quite a number of these events with UK Export Finance this week. For maybe businesses who are thinking about how can they move out of the domestic market, I mean, how do you even start contemplating becoming an exporter? How have you found that?
And I think as Nadeem and Joanne have spoken about this before, about there's a lot of reference points, and you mentioned about just picking up the phone and talking to people. So I've been fortunate, I've just been able to phone other businesses I admire, and I've shown them around our business and they've shown me around their business. And so I've been able to pick up over the years the various strategies people have found for developing internationally. Being a digital business, we can see areas that we get a good amount of web traffic already, and we get a good amount of just sales through the UK website itself, so we can see where we are strong, where markets already exist, and then a little bit of research about local market insights can really help. And I've started going to more trade shows in the US and in Europe, just to be able to get a vibe for business in those particular territories. So it's
good advice. Thank you. Thanks, David.
Good.
Okay, and Joanne, over to you. What's next for you and the company? Next 5 years aspirations?
Yeah, thank you. I think for us, it's about, getting our platform into more, frontline healthcare teams, making that difference. And we really do want to make a difference. And I think for us, it's saving the time, the money, and the resources, So we want to be more prolific in our local market, whether it's working with the Royal Navy, which we do on board HMS Queen Elizabeth and Prince of Wales, and taking that to other Royal Navies, across the globe. So I think, more in our own local market, and then looking at those export markets as well, and because the problems that exist in some of our customers today, in those critical sectors, exist in what we've seen whenever we've gone out to the US, whenever we have gone out to Australia and Indo-Pacific. They have the same problems: not enough time, not enough resources, and not enough money. And I think that's where we can help address that. So really keen to drive that and have, the team around us. The export journey, we've kind of gone and dabbled a little bit on that over the last year. It costs more money than you'll ever think. I think we've been quite lucky with some networks as well. ABHI, from a healthcare perspective, ADS from a defense perspective, and working with DBT, working with the Department of Trade, because they're well connected at a global level, and helping, companies like us understand how we can go and understand a market somewhere else is really important. So yeah, more traction locally, and then one eye on, looking at export as well. Sounds like there's too much going on there, actually, by the way. So
it's a lot. Thank you. That sounds a very exciting future. Thank you, Joanne. And to you, Nadeem, you were just saying that you're actually, in terms of aspirations, you're just in another round. So what's next for Flow?
We have a round of funding about to close, which is going to be pretty high profile. It'll be one of the largest ever done in the space where we operate. We have quite a detailed strategic plan, that's been developed as part of that funding round. So it's about, achieving that plan now. So that's there's a number of new product areas that we're launching, scaling up in existing product areas. It's scaling the team to kind of cope with what we consider to be, a lot of growth in terms of top level revenue. And the last point is, our company did make an acquisition earlier in 2023. We're about to close another small acquisition into the start of next year, and we are looking to acquire. So part of my job is going to say, look, we have a consolidation opportunity in the space that we operate. So I'll be working on that over the next kind of few months, and all the other stuff, that we do, like, internationals on the agenda. How do we do that in an effective manner, considering how we operate? So yeah, we're a busy little company, so.
I think that's a common theme we can all see across all three of you. So thank you so much. Those are the questions that I know we discussed beforehand, but we have had a number of questions come in from people on the call today. So one of them in particular is asking the question, with such a variety of debt finance options available, and with small business bank managers now extinct, how can the majority of business owners find a trusted or a best fit advisory pathway to ensure that the best fit financing option and lender can be found? And just while we think about that, I mean, I think a number of businesses have told us this, that they don't feel that they have those relationship managers in place anymore. So really understanding where to go can feel quite a complicated, it can feel a complicated journey to try and navigate. So thinking about where can we find that best fit, could I come to you for that one, David, please?
Yeah, thanks. It is tricky. So I share that, and I know we were fortunate a few years ago when we did get our account manager at the bank to recommend First Enterprise for Midlands Ancient Investment Fund. Without that, how would I have found it? And I think there's a little bit of just talking with other founders and the kind of funding they've had. I think local accountants, lawyers can also help raising that awareness of that kind of thing. I ended up just with a big list and almost kept every bank I'd heard of, and I still call it up now. So I kind of still sometimes scan down it and approach people. And I think the point we made earlier is that raising finance, it's a job in itself, and it takes time. It's not a kind of Friday afternoon job. You have to do it quite carefully. So in your working week, to set enough time aside, hopefully to get funding in place to find a good fit. And what Nadeem said, it's on both sides. If you've haven't got a positive partner, it can be problematic further down the line. So finding a good partner. Well, the good news is that they are around and they're good. I mean, we've all had really positive experiences, so I don't think it's necessarily something to be fearful of. It's just something to recognize that there is funding out there and there are good partners, and it's a bit of making sure that values are aligned and your kind of aspirations are aligned to make it a good fit. And you'll sense that pretty quickly, I reckon.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you, David. So, I mean, I think that's really encouraging for businesses to hear that there is support out there. It can feel complex, but reach out to that ecosystem that you have within your geography, and there will be people to support and help navigate you through. Thank you, David. So one of our next questions that we've got, and I think we touched on this briefly before, Joanna, which is around having a strong financial plan. And so the question that's come in is, would you recommend any tools to create and maintain a strong finance plan?
Gosh, Angeline, I probably wasn't the right person for that. I don't actually. Well, I tell you what, we use our CFO has worked for BDO and worked in the financial markets for a long period of time as well, and had helped multiple companies go through investment. So we were very lucky, and she just uses Excel. So I mean, for us, that's what we do. Now within the business, we use other tools in relation to managing our own internal finances and our own accountancy, and then we also use tools like Salesforce for new managing new contracts. But in relation to a tool around a plan, we kind of go from our numbers, go from our customer base, know where we want to go to, and then obviously then we build that up and then we present that back to our investors, on our board. But someone else might know of tools. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I mean, one of the areas as well in terms of if it's about financial plan, but also business plan, there are a number of tools out there. I know there's some on our website as well, which is around how to build an effective business plan when you're trying to pitch your business. So there's a number of those resources out there as well, aren't there?
Yes, no, that's great. You have them actually, I think. And you're right. Invest NI, I should have said, like we would have used some of their online tools as well.
Mm.
Yeah, absolutely.
No resources. Great, thank you. Right, I think we've just got time for one more before I hand over. So if I could come to Nadeem for the final question, if that's all right. So Felicity's asking us, what sort of information have you shared when you've applied for funding?
Okay, so let's talk about debt financing. So generally, I'm assuming the business is trading, and it's not pre-revenue. So typically, a bank is going to ask you for management accounts. It's going to ask you for your last set of annual accounts.
Yeah.
It may ask you to prepare a cash flow forecast. A cash flow forecast is pretty relevant when you're needing to go and demonstrate affordability for financing. And projected balance sheet and P&L. I mean, depending on the level of finance, you might not need to do any of that. You might just have to you might just be credit scored, and it's quite an easy little process. But typically, you're looking at a set of projections, cash flow forecasts, and your historic financials. So your historic financials include like I said, last set of accounts and your management accounts. And to be honest, they're the same things you need for an equity round of investment as well, but probably more weighted not to the historic, but more to the projected side, and then bring in some reality to why those projections are going to happen. So yeah, we're kind of lucky. I mean, I remember when I first started out, there was a lot of help from our accountant to do all these kind of things. But I'm much the same way, I'm sure, as the other two businesses. We have a CFO and a finance director who are both chartered accountants in the business, who can help with all these kind of things, which is useful. But I get when you're a very, very early stage business, it's very hard to go and create these types of information. Your accountant is your friend in terms of pulling this together. There is advisors that can help you with all this kind of stuff. It's also about putting the right software packages in place for your business. If you're a small business, you put the right accountancy software. Well, guess what? You can start creating basic financials out of that, and cash flow forecast and everything else. Xero is a great tool. We still use that from the time so yeah, that's my kind of take on that.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who has submitted questions. And as I said, we will absolutely come back out to you with answers if we haven't managed to cover them all off today. So I think in the last hour I've taken quite a lot of notes, but I think some of the guidance you've given us around finances: start early. It takes longer than you think every month, so start early. There is support out there. Just make sure that you're speaking to the right people. Develop your networks. That came across really strongly. And don't be overly optimistic, but also make sure that you partner with the right investors, and that it's really important that you're able to maintain that relationship. So thank you so much to David, to Joanna, to Nadeem for your time today and for sharing your stories. We have really found it inspiring, and also you've shared with us some real practical guidance that I know the smaller businesses on the call today will absolutely benefit from. So thank you. I'd like to hand over to Louis Taylor now. Louis is Chief Executive Officer here at the British Business Bank, and Louis is going to be closing our session. Welcome, Louis.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you, Angeline. It's really brilliant to close what has been an absolutely fantastic business finance week. At the same time, it's rather sad to close what has been an absolutely fantastic business finance week, because I'm sure there's lots more that we could do, but maybe for next year. So for those of you who don't know me, my name is Louis Taylor. I'm the Chief Executive of the British Business Bank. And firstly, I want to thank our excellent panelists from Kinsetsu, from Flow and Alpkit, who shared with us their varied business finance journeys today. Particularly good to see Nadeem, whom I met earlier in the year, and in whose honour I am wearing the Flow hoodie that I was given when we met. So look, what struck me most from your stories is that it's not just about gaining access to the finance and capital that you need as a business, but it's also having a clear purpose about what you're going to use that finance for, and then following through to make the right investment in your business at the right time. So accessing finance for your business is a journey, and much like life itself, there's very little that's purely linear in this world. There'll be ups and downs, incredible highs, and undoubtedly setbacks along the way. And it's really how you manage those highs and lows and what you learn from each experience that is really ultimately how you'll make your business a success. So one of our objectives for Business Finance Week was to provide businesses with the opportunity to network and build relationships with a range of people across the finance sector, whether that's connecting with investors, sharing experiences with peers, or gaining a fresh perspective that can help you in the future. So we set out to provide a good mix of online and in-person events, but I feel it's the latter category in particular that really allows people to build meaningful connections. And I hope you have found time to do that this week. I certainly did in Newcastle yesterday at an excellent session on innovation across the Northeast. So look, I want to extend my huge thanks to all of our speakers and partners who've worked closely with us in the lead up to and throughout Business Finance Week to create these opportunities. On Wednesday, we're privileged to be joined by the Parliamentary Under-Secretary of State for Enterprise and Markets, Kevin Hollinrake MP, who spoke on the theme of thriving with finance. I want to place on my record my thanks to the Minister, himself a small business owner, for supporting our event and for supporting the business community in the UK as well. So look, whatever's next for you, I really wish you the best of luck. I hope you've learned something or met someone new during Business Finance Week to support you on your onward journey. And I look forward to seeing you at future events and to hearing about your successes as well. So thank you very much indeed.